warmth of your skin. I feel
Hey guys, Omar here, broker and CEO of Alden Mortgage and Ome Realty. So there was once upon a time that I made a ton of money, and then shortly after I lost every last penny of it. And now we're on the verge of just trying to make everything all back together again. So this is not really like a how-to or anything like that. This is a story of how I went ahead and I made millions, made a ton of money, and I lost every last penny of it, and it sucked. And you know what it is? It's like, there's people out there that have this thing where they could go ahead and work a 9-to-5 job and have a stable income. You have your 401k and you're paycheck to paycheck. Or or you need to work for a corporation or whatever it is. You need that stability of a company backing you, and you need that paycheck every 2 weeks or every week or every month, however you make your money. And then there's guys like me where I don't have that in me. I cannot do that. It's not in. There's that part of my brain that just doesn't understand it. I am either going to be very, very, very wealthy, or I'm going to be completely broke and I'm going to be homeless. I don't have that fair medium thing inside of me. There's something wrong with me. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. It just doesn't work sometimes. But whatever. Okay. So I've been a mortgage broker and a real estate broker now for the better part of 20 years. Okay, so it's a very, very, very long time. So back before 2008, what we used to do is we used to go ahead and I used to run about 3 offices. When I mean running, I didn't really ever show up. Okay, so what we used to do is back in the day, there was like the wild, wild west when it came to mortgaging. People didn't have to be licensed. You didn't have to do anything. We would just go give you a whole bunch of leads, and we'd have a bunch of kids calling over and over and over again. Whatever. Okay, so I used to run mortgaging companies, a mortgaging company back in the day. I used to have a couple of people run this office, a couple of people run that office, a couple of people run that office. And what we used to do is the money that I would get, the money that I did make through those mortgaging companies, I would go ahead and buy a bunch of homes. Now, this is one of those things where if you're ever into real estate investing and you're trying to, rent homes and this and that, well, we weren't really in the business of renting homes. What we were doing is we would go ahead and buy a bunch of houses. And this kind of probably seems a little familiar because I think Zillow did the same exact thing that we did way, way back in the day, but they're doing it now. I learned my lesson. I'm doing things a little bit differently now, kind of adapt, project what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, whatever. Okay. So what we used to do is we used to go buy 5, 10, 15 houses, right? We used to go buy a bunch of houses. And what you're probably thinking is like, how the hell did you buy all these houses? We had a lot of money. Relax yourself. We were making quite a bit of money. And if we didn't have the money, what we would do is we would go ahead and loan applications back in the day. We had these crazy things that were called like one-liners or paper savers. And I could have got a mortgage for just about anything and everybody. But what we do is we would go ahead and have a company that we would go ahead and buy all these homes under. So we would go ahead and this also might sound familiar with wholesaling, when you give the right to sell to somebody else. Okay, so if you're just a little bit off topic, wholesaling. What wholesaling is you are going to go ahead and purchase a property. You're not purchasing, you're going to put in an offer to go ahead and buy a property at X amount of dollars. So let's say you go to somebody and you're like, hey, how much are you selling this house? They're like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and sell it for $300,000. Bet, that house is going to go ahead and sell for $330,000. You take that right to go ahead, you're going to go ahead and put that house in the contract. You already know that person B over here is going to go ahead and buy that house for $310,000 because they're going to still make their $20,000 margin on that. So then you go ahead and take that house, and then you go ahead and give them the right to sell. So when you go into title, your title is going to have 2 buyers total. You, 1 seller, and then 2 buyers. Give him the right to sell. You are going to have the right to sell it to this other person. Wholesaling in a high side, which I honestly think that. Actually, I know people who wholesale are pretty much like straw buyers. It's a very, very weird gray area that people who wholesale are in, but that's besides the point. Let's just keep going on with this story. So what we used to do is we used to go ahead and buy a bunch of homes, and at the time when I was like at the peak, I was purchasing maybe like 30-40 homes a month, and then we would go ahead and sell it because it was kept on appreciating so fast. Does it sound familiar? It does sound familiar, but it was appreciating so fast that we would just go ahead and hold on to it. We would go ahead and bypass the flip rule, and then we would go ahead and sell it 3-4 months down the road. Never paid a mortgage on it, never ever did anything of it, because whenever you do purchase a house, you do have that leeway of going ahead and not having a mortgage for about a month and a half. Sometimes it's 2, depending on when you purchase it. Then right when the first mortgage payment is due, we would go ahead and list the house. We would list the house. So then that gives us an extra month to go ahead and buffer. And then when we did that, we would go ahead and sell that house, and every house we'd make like $40,000-$50,000 off each and every house. Doing 30 houses every single month kind of adds up. Well, then 2008 happened, and then when 2008 happened, we couldn't give these goddamn homes away. They were just such a pain in the ass, couldn't do anything. Now, I made a huge mistake. The huge mistake is that I couldn't get any more credit to put on the company name, so I ended up putting it on my own name. Big no, don't ever do that. Don't ever put anything in your name. Put it on somebody else's name, because it financially will ruin you. And what I mean by somebody else's name, I mean like have a company entity that you could go ahead and assume all the liability on the company, so if anything were to happen, you still stay free and in the clear. Whether it's a limited liability company and in conjunction with an S Corp, which is what I prefer for tax purposes and liability issues. And then what I did is we went ahead and we couldn't sell off the houses. I had it under my name. They did a lot. I'm not going to get into too much detail of how they took a lot of the money away. I lost a lot of it, and I had to pay a lot of fees. I had to pay a lot of fines. Most of it went to foreclosures, and yeah, that's what I did and how I made a bunch of money and lost every last penny of it. And that was back in 2008. And then we went into what's called the top ramen stage of my life, where I was just, it was brutal. It was not a fun time. It was a really sucky time. I had no money. And of course, the whole entire time, I never told a single person about anything. That's another really key thing. Whenever you're doing anything when it comes to business, don't ever tell anybody what you're anticipating on doing. Now, of course, yeah, you see I'm doing these YouTube videos and this and that. This is just for fun. You know, I don't give too much details of what projections that we have and what we're eventually going to do, but keep your cards close to you. Keep your cards as close to you as you possibly can. Do you visualize where you're gonna go? Yes, I visualize that we are going to be, myself, I will be one of the next biggest mortgaging and real estate companies within the next 5 years. Mark this day and just know that we will be one of the biggest mortgaging companies out there. I see that. I will use this platform to go ahead and get there. But for the most part, how it's going to happen, the details around it, what kind of products you're going to sell, what your ultimate goal after you become a big mortgaging company, what is that after that, those are things that you want to go ahead and keep close to you. But as far as the servicing part of it, which is this mortgaging product, yeah, of course, I'll tell you all day long. I'm going to scream this shit at the top of the hill as much as I possibly can to make sure every single person in the world will use us as a mortgage company. Well, hopefully this didn't crap you out as much as it crapped me out for reliving the moment, but until next video, guys, thank you for watching.